Ever dreamed of living in paradise surrounded by endless ocean views, sandy beaches, and swaying palm trees? Well, Hawaii is pretty much all of that. But here's the catch: paradise isn't cheap. In fact, Hawaii might just be a paradise only accessible for the wealthiest 1%. Yes, you heard that right. In this video, I'm going to walk you through why living in Hawaii has become a luxury that most people can't even imagine affording. We'll talk about sky-high housing costs, the insane prices of everyday goods, and what it's like for locals who work hard just to get by. I'll also tell you whether there is any hope for affordability or if Hawaii is truly becoming a land for the ultra-wealthy only. So stick with me as we will understand some eye-opening truths about life in Hawaii and see if it really is a place for just the 1%. Let's get into it. If you have ever heard people say that Hawaii is expensive, they are not exaggerating. The cost of living in Hawaii is one of the highest in the entire United States. Housing, for example, is nearly 3 times the national average. You are looking at paying close to $1 million for a decent single-family home, and that's if you are lucky enough to find one. But wait, it gets even crazier. Renting isn't any easier. Rent for a one-bedroom apartment can go for around $2,000 per month, and that's on the low end. And we are not talking about fancy luxury condos either. This is just a modest space. For a lot of people, that's close to an entire paycheck going just toward rent. So housing costs alone might make you wonder if Hawaii is a playground only for the rich. But there is more to it than just rent and home prices. Let's talk about what it costs to actually survive in Hawaii day by day. Now you might think, alright, maybe I can budget my housing and get by, but here is where things get a little shocking. Everyday essentials in Hawaii can be 2 to 3 times as expensive as they are on the mainland. We are talking about basic things like groceries, gas, and even household items. Why so high? Well, nearly everything in Hawaii has to be imported by plane or ship. That means costs pile up before products even reach the store shelves. A gallon of milk, prepare to pay over $5 for it. Gasoline, often $1 to $2 more per gallon than on the mainland. And forget about shopping for fresh produce on a budget. Things like apples and avocados can cost double what they would anywhere else in the US. It's pretty clear that life in Hawaii isn't cheap, but it's not just about money. It's about what the costs mean for the people who actually live here. Imagine growing up in Hawaii, loving everything about your home, but then realizing that you may never actually be able to own a piece of it. That's the reality for many local families and middle-class residents who find themselves priced out of their own hometowns. High housing costs force many locals to live with extended family or work multiple jobs just to keep up with rent. Many young people in Hawaii dream of leaving, not because they don't love the island, but because they just can't afford to stay. It's not uncommon for people to move to the mainland for better job opportunities and lower living costs. Hawaii is slowly losing its locals to this phenomenon, and it raises a big question. Who is Hawaii really for? Well, the answer is tourists. Tourism is Hawaii's biggest industry, bringing in billions of dollars every year. But as beneficial as that sounds, it also comes with a dark side. The demand for short-term vacation rentals and luxury hotels is pushing up prices for everyone else. Wealthy tourists can easily afford these costs, and as a result, many landlords are converting long-term rentals into Airbnbs and vacation homes which cater to the short-term crowd. For locals, this means even fewer affordable housing options. And when there is a shortage of available housing, it drives up prices for everything else. There is even a term for it, vacation rental inflation, where rental rates spike to cater to tourists, not locals. And once you add it all up, it's no wonder locals feel like they are being squeezed out of their own state. Now you might wonder, if Hawaii is facing such a severe affordability crisis, what's being done to help? The state government and local organizations are trying to tackle the issue, but the solutions aren't simple or quick. One major approach is to create more affordable housing units. This includes setting aside a certain percentage of new developments for lower-income families. There are also initiatives to limit the number of vacation rentals allowed in certain areas, which could free up properties for local renters. Some proposals aim to introduce rent control measures which would prevent landlords from raising rents to unattainable levels. But here's the thing. These measures face strong opposition from developers, investors, and sometimes even the tourism industry. For instance, limiting vacation rentals would mean less income for homeowners and less availability for tourists, which could hurt the local economy. So it's a bit of a balancing act and progress is slow. While government policies are in motion, they are not even to reverse the high costs that have been mounting for decades. This brings us to a new question. Who is really benefiting from Hawaii's economy today? In recent years, Hawaii has seen a major influx of wealthy newcomers. Many affluent people from the mainland are buying up luxury properties, which often go for millions of dollars. These properties, especially beachfront estates, have become symbols of exclusivity and wealth, further pushing the idea that Hawaii is for the elite. Luxury developments are popping up, creating gated communities and exclusive neighborhoods that cater only to the ultra-wealthy. These high-end communities have amenities that most locals could never afford, like private beaches, golf courses, and exclusive dining. Some wealthy buyers don't even live in Hawaii year-round. Their estates sit vacant for much of the year, further reducing the housing stock available for locals. So, with the wealthy newcomers reshaping Hawaii, where does that leave the everyday residents? For many locals, the dream of owning a home or living comfortably in Hawaii is slipping further out of reach. Aside from the obvious expenses like housing and groceries, there are hidden costs that make living in Hawaii even tougher. One example, high utility bills. Electricity costs in Hawaii are the highest in the nation because most of the energy is generated from imported oil. That means even basic utilities can eat away at a family's budget. Healthcare is also incredibly expensive. Hawaii may have some of the best medical facilities, but those come with a high price tag. With limited specialists on the islands, some residents even have to fly to the mainland for certain treatments, adding travel costs to their medical expenses. And then there is education. Many families opt to send their children to private schools as public schools can be under-resourced. These private school tuition can be as high as college fees, putting more financial strain on middle-class families. Between housing, groceries, utilities, and healthcare, it's easy to see why so many people feel like Hawaii is slipping out of reach. But what's next for the state? Is there any hope for reversing these trends? Can it remain a place for both locals and newcomers, or is it destined to become an exclusive playground for the wealthy? Some experts argue that with strict regulation and smart development, Hawaii can balance the needs of locals and tourists. Others believe that Hawaii might need to reinvent itself if it wants to avoid becoming solely for the 1%. One possible solution is boosting the local economy by investing in industries outside of tourism, such as renewable energy and agriculture. By creating more high-paying jobs and diversifying the economy, Hawaii might be able to keep its local population and improve affordability. There is also a growing push for sustainable tourism that prioritizes locals' quality of life. If Hawaii can reduce the impact of tourists and bring in revenue through eco-friendly means, it might lessen the economic pressure on residents. By the way, if you think this video has told you something new today, then I think it deserves a like. And you can subscribe to the channel as well because it's free. Okay, back to the video. Alright, so we have covered a lot, from high living costs to the challenges locals face and what's being done about it. But before we wrap up, here is something to think about. Hawaii is often seen as a paradise, but for many, it's becoming a paradise out of reach. High costs, limited affordable housing, and the influx of wealth make it feel like a place for only the 1%. For those who call Hawaii home, this transformation is deeply personal and challenging. If Hawaii continues on this path, it might become less of a welcoming home and more of an exclusive destination, a place where everyday residents are replaced by wealthy part-timers and tourists. But with the right policies and a community push for change, maybe Hawaii can stay a place for everyone. And if you are wondering what could happen in another unique US state like Alaska, especially if all the oil runs out, then you should watch this video. Thanks for watching, mate. Bye.